Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something
Yeah.
that I think a lot of people are kind of maybe intimidated by, but
Mhm.
also I think find incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
It's memorizing scripture,
Yes.
and we're going deep into a YouTube video from Southern Seminary
Okay.
called "What is the Easiest Way to Memorize Scripture?"
I love that title.
I know.
Very intriguing.
Yeah.
Cuts right to the chase.
Yeah, exactly.
Gets to the point.
Um, and I think what's so interesting about this video is it really tackles that feeling of intimidation head on.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So it acknowledges that it's difficult.
it does.
Okay.
And it even brings in this pastor, Dr. Andy Davis,
Right.
who has memorized 42 books of the Bible.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
That's incredible.
It's unbelievable.
Wow.
But what I thought was really encouraging for someone like me who, has always struggled with memorization is that even he says he
Yeah.
doesn't have perfect recall of all 42 books.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not about kind of robotic memorization,
Exactly.
but maybe something a little bit more dynamic.
Yeah, and so I think that's really good for anyone who's just starting out to kind of have that realistic expectation.
Right, because you think, oh, 42 books, I'm never going to get there,
Yeah, right.
and maybe you don't have to.
And maybe you don't,
Right.
and that's okay.
It's about the process and the impact.
That's right.
Yeah, and the video really emphasizes that. So I want to get into Dr. Davis's method a little bit
Yeah, please.
because, he says it's about repetition over time,
Okay.
but he kind of gives a specific structure to it.
Oh, okay, interesting, because, when you're dealing with memory, a structure is really key.
Yes.
It's like building a house. You need that framework.
Exactly.
So what kind of framework does he provide?
So he says you start with just one verse
Okay.
and you read it out loud 10 times,
10 times, okay.
and then you try to recite it 10 times, peeking if you need to,
Got it.
and that's it for the day.
Oh,
Yeah.
15 minutes?
15 minutes.
Yeah,
That's less time than most people spend, scrolling through social media.
I know.
I
Okay,
mean-
it's very doable,
It is.
but 10 repetitions of each.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Is there a cognitive reason for that?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Is it just, drilling it in, or is there something else going on?
I was wondering that too. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it's just how, our brains form memories
Mhm.
through repeated exposure.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something to that.
Okay, so that's day one.
Yeah.
What happens on day two?
So then on day 2, you review
Okay.
that first verse,
Okay,
and then you add a new one
got it.
using the same process.
So you're building upon what you already know.
Yeah, you're constantly layering.
Interesting.
Right.
It's like creating a mental tapestry.
Yeah.
You're weaving those verses together.
Yeah, and I mean, the guy's been doing this for years.
Right. 42 books.
To get to 42 books.
That's years of dedication.
Years.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But you know what the video also says?
What's that?
They say that even memorizing one verse a month
Mm-hmm.
puts you ahead of most Christians.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So
that's encouraging.
I know. It makes it seem much more
Yeah.
attainable.
Attainable, yeah. It's
Yeah.
not this, insurmountable feat.
Right.
It's something that you can actually chip away at.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's really empowering,
It is?
especially for someone who's just starting out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of starting out,
Yeah.
the video also talks about something that I think is really appealing to a lot of people, especially those who are,
Yeah.
tech savvy,
Mm-hmm.
scripture memory apps.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So they acknowledge, hey, there's this whole digital world that can help you with this.
Yeah. They even go through and look at a bunch of different apps.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did they highlight any features that stood out to them?
Yeah. So they talk about how a lot of the apps have audio playback,
Oh, that's nice.
so you can listen to the verses on the go. That's really smart.
Right.
That turns all that dead time that
Mhm.
you have, commuting or whatever,
Yeah.
into learning time.
It's like having your own personal scripture tutor in your
Just-
pocket.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but whether you use an app or, the Dr. Davis's method, the video really emphasizes that the real key is desire and commitment.
That internal drive,
Yeah.
that's what's going to make you succeed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That makes sense.
So it's really about, kind of cultivating that and then finding the method that works for you and sticking with it.
Yeah, and sticking with it. That's
Yeah.
probably one of the harder parts, right?
Yeah, I would imagine.
Like, I wonder if there's anything in the video
Mm.
that speaks to that.
Yeah.
Like, what if somebody has that desire,
Yeah.
but they really struggle with consistency?
That's a great question. And a lot of people probably struggle with that.
Yeah, that's
You
true.
know, just life gets in the way.
Life gets in the way. It's busy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah.
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 It's tough.
Yeah. And I think, what's nice about the way Dr. Davis kind of frames his method
Right.
is that even if you miss a day or two, it's pretty easy to just pick up where you left off.
Right. It's simple enough.
Right,
that you
yeah.
can sort of jump back in.
Yeah, and the video actually mentions that he doesn't always hit that 15 minutes every single day.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's really
It
about...
makes me feel better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right, like finding a rhythm.
Yeah. Find what works for you.
That works for you.
That's good.
Yeah, and I think, maybe this is a good point to kind of transition back to those scripture memory apps.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole world out there beyond just audio playback.
I'm all ears. Tell me more.
Okay, so a lot of these apps use techniques like spaced repetition.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of that?
I have, yeah.
So it's basically this idea that you review the information at increasing intervals, and that actually helps it stick better in your long-term memory.
Spaced repetition. That's like
Yeah.
a real technique.
Yeah.
It's not just some made-up thing. There's like
Yeah.
actual cognitive science behind that.
It's like having a personalized memory coach in your phone.
Right.
And some apps even have gamification elements.
Oh, wow.
Like, quizzes or virtual rewards.
You can, kind of
Yeah.
level up and get points.
Yeah, and that can make it feel...
That's smart because that taps into our natural, desire to,
less like a chore.
compete
Yeah.
to achieve things.
Yeah, more like a game.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of people, the idea of just like rote memorization is kind of boring.
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So that's really smart.
Yeah, and then there are apps that are designed for like different learning styles.
Okay.
So some are more visual,
Yeah.
using, pictures or flashcards. Others are more audio focused with, dramatic readings
Yeah.
or musical settings. So there's
Yeah.
really something for everyone.
So you can really personalize it to your needs.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. But I think, even with all those options, I think it's still really easy to feel overwhelmed.
Sure.
Like, where do you even begin?
Right. It's kind of like you're standing at the base of a mountain and there's all these different paths.
Yeah.
And you're like, well,
Which one should I take?
where do I go?
Right.
How do I get to the top?
Exactly. And I think it goes back to that core question of what resonates with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's your motivation for wanting to memorize scripture in the first place?
Yeah. Are you doing this because you want to have verses on hand to share with people?
Yeah.
Or
to help you in times of need.
yeah.
Right.
Or maybe just to deepen your own understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think once you've kind of identified that, why
Okay.
it gives you a compass for navigating all those options.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So once you've got that compass, then what? Well, then I think it's just about taking those first steps.
Okay.
Maybe it's choosing a verse that speaks to you. Maybe
Yeah.
it's downloading an app that looks interesting.
Oh.
It's really about experimenting and seeing what feels right.
I like that idea of experimentation, just
Yeah.
trying things out.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to click
Exactly.
until you try it.
Yeah. So let's say a listener is feeling inspired.
Okay.
They're ready to take that first step. What are some practical things they can do?
Well, I think if they like that Dr. Davis method,
Yeah.
they could choose a shorter book of the Bible,
Oh.
like maybe James
Okay.
or Philippians,
Hmm.
something a little bit easier to digest,
Yeah.
and just commit to those 15 minutes a day.
Yeah.
You know?
Or if they're drawn to the tech side,
Yeah.
maybe they could explore some of those popular scripture memory apps.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to try a couple of them out.
Yeah,
Most of them have free trials,
that's true.
so you can really see which one is the best fit for you.
It's like test driving a car.
Exactly. You're not going to buy a car without taking it for a spin.
Exactly.
So yeah, do the same thing with the apps.
Yeah, and even if you're not aiming to memorize an entire book,
Yeah.
even one verse a week can make a big difference over time.
Yeah. Little by little.
Right, it's about consistency.
Yeah.
It's like building a muscle.
Right. The more you do it,
Yeah.
the stronger you get
Yeah.
and the easier it becomes.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
just like building muscle, you experience those moments of, wow, I can really feel the difference.
You can see the progress.
Yeah.
Maybe it's recalling a verse
Yeah.
during a tough time
Yeah.
or sharing it with someone who needs it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And I think that brings us back to the heart of it all.
Yes.
Right.
It's about that connection.
It's about that personal connection.
with the words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And allowing it to shape our lives
Yeah.
in those meaningful
I
ways.
just love that.
Wow. This has been quite a deep dive.
It has. So much to consider when it comes to scripture memorization.
Oh, no.
I know. Right. We
Yeah.
really uncovered some valuable insights.
Yeah, we got into like the nitty-gritty of different methods
All
and
different
stuff.
approaches and, the technology
Okay.
that's out there.
The tech.
But yeah, I think most importantly, just that emphasis on, really finding what resonates with you.
Yeah, that personal connection.
Yeah, and making it a part of your journey. So
Yeah.
as we wrap up this deep dive, I'd love to leave our listeners with a thought to ponder.
Ooh, I like it.
Okay,
Hit me.
what's one small step you can take today to move closer to your scripture memorization goals?
I love that.
Maybe it's choosing that first verse
Yeah.
to memorize. Maybe it's setting aside those 15 minutes for Dr. Davis's method.
Or maybe it's, downloading that app,
Yeah.
checking it out.
Just that first step.
Yeah, that first step is always the hardest.
Yeah.
But once you do it,
Yeah.
things start rolling.
Yeah. It gets easier. And remember, even small, consistent efforts can lead to remarkable results over time.
Absolutely.
So whether you're a seasoned scripture memorizer or just starting out, we encourage you to find what works for you and embrace the journey.
Love it.
And let us know what resonates with you and what other knowledge adventures you'd like us to embark on in future deep dives.
Yes.
Until then, happy learning.
Happy learning.